just either slightly different from what they are, or we talk, we see things are not normal.
You're listening to Strange Familiars. True stories of the paranormal, cryptids, hauntings, the occult, mythology, UFOs, folklore, weird and forgotten history. Please make sure to like and subscribe to Strange Familiars on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever you are listening. Please share the Strange Familiars page and episodes on Facebook and other social media. If you have experienced something strange, or if you know a story you would like us to cover, email strangefamiliarspodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook, facebook.com/strangefamiliars, and of course, strangefamiliars.com.
Welcome to Strange Familiars, episode 50. So it's a bit of a landmark. I know we have listeners that have been with us since episode 1. And I know we have new listeners and people that jumped on along the way. We're happy to have you no matter when you found us, but episode 50 is quite a landmark. There was some points in there in the early part where I didn't know if we were going to be able to keep up doing this. Got a great episode for you tonight, continuing from episode 49. But before I get into that, I just wanted to mention this coming Saturday, October 13th, is Albatwitch Day in Columbia, Pennsylvania. That's a little paranormal fair we put on every year, celebrating our own little Bigfoot, our little hairy person, locally known as the Albatwitch. There's paranormal speakers, paranormal vendors, artists, craftspeople, there's games, trolley rides, local music, and more. I will be there. I'll be giving a talk, as well as some other paranormal speakers. You can stop by the Strange Familiars table. You can buy my books, get them signed, etc., etc. I hope to see you there. Again, that's Saturday, October 13th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Locust Street in Columbia. On October 27th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., I will be at the Spirits Through Time Paranormal Fair. That's at the Capitol Theater in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Again, we'll have the Strange Familiars banner up there if you want to stop by and talk to us. I'll have copies of my books to sign and sell, my artwork, and more. October 27th, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, Spirits Through Time Paranormal Fair. So tonight is part 2 of the great psychedelic synchronicity ramble. Clint and I continued our conversation after being unceremoniously cut off and interrupted on both ends of the conversation. Both of our computers went down at once. Well, my internet went down and his computer went down at the same time. We continued the next night. We got into more of the same. I tell about the raccoon attack and about the synchronicity that got a little darker with that. It really did give me pause. I didn't know what to do with it for a few days. It kind of spun me into a depression, and maybe that was the rabies shots as much as a realization about the synchronicity that went along with the whole thing. There's a couple times in my involvement with the paranormal where I've had this kind of depression, this kind of reality check, and kind of sets me back a little bit and makes me question things. But I wrestle with it for a while and think about things and decide, what are the options there, to go on or to give up on all of it. And I don't think giving up is an option. Certainly Clint's input and conversation and friendship throughout this was pretty good medicine and helped me get back on track with all this. So before we get back to that conversation, I just wanted to mention Strange Familiars is brought to you by our patrons. If you'd like to help us make this podcast, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. For $3 a month, you get extra shows. We try to do at least one extra show for our patrons every month. Lately, we've been averaging 2, and those are full episodes of Strange Familiars. So you get a lot of extra content, but there are different levels of support as well. If you wanted to go in at a higher level of support, you can get things like t-shirts, pins, stickers, a signed copy of my book, etc., etc. You can check out all the different levels of support at Patreon. Patreon.com/strangefamiliars. Thanks to all of our patrons. You guys make the show happen. We don't get any advertising at this time. We don't get any other support other than our patrons. So thank you guys. You're making the show happen. 50 episodes now. So back to my conversation with Clint. We take another random phone call. It ends up being pretty neat. The whole experience of the Synchronicity Ramble was pretty exciting. As we were talking about synchronicity, we're getting more synchronicities. So it was quite a fun conversation.
If I wouldn't have walked in here, that would have been bad news.
Yeah.
Because with our chief engineer, she's out of town for a week. Those other dudes, the other guy that's here, he's basically like maintenance. He's no damn engineer. Wow. They can now give me my own special thing because I saved the program.
Another plaque.
Let's knock this synchronicities, then maybe we can have a little fun.
Cool. All right. Yeah, let's do it.
What was the last thing we were talking about? The coons?
So to recap, yeah, we were talking, all in one night. We talked about the raccoons. We talked about Seth Breedlove making movies. We talked about the Eye of Sauron. And was that it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I had basically...
Which was the same night we took that call, the first call I played where the lady was from Upperco, where I was from. So, basically the phone call, the night starts out with synchronicity. Bam, right? We talk about all this stuff. And the reason I got off the phone that night, if you remember, I said, I got to hike with my son tomorrow. I'm going on a hike. So that's pretty much how we ended the conversation. So I, went to sleep, woke up, asked my son where he wanted.
Back-to-back nights, though.
What's that?
We recorded back-to-back nights. Remember?
We did, yeah.
The raccoon thing and stuff I talked about in the podcast. The one that you published.
Mm-hmm, okay.
That's I think, on the air.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, we
which I don't think you did.
It was a lot of talking in a short period. So.
It's definitely.
So anyway.
So you told me you were going to go hiking the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty pooped because got a lot going on these days.
Woke up and made lunch for the boy. And Allison usually works on Saturdays, and my daughter goes to her grandparents' house because she does not like to hike. Hiking is not her thing. So Gideon usually stays home with me, and then we go on a hike usually almost every Saturday. And we'll choose a different place depending on what time I wake up. And because I woke up late, we went to the nearest park, which is Spring Valley Park. And that happens to also be Hex Hollow, where I've had a number of other weird experiences of which I've talked about on this and other podcasts. But with it, not expecting a weird thing to happen. I mean, it was just, hey, let's go hike. It was a rainy day. Now, people talk about weird stuff happening in the rain a lot, but the rain had kind of let up about halfway through our hike. Normal hike by all signs and so forth. My son is like a billy goat, so he gets up hills a lot faster than me, and usually he's about 20 yards ahead of me when we hike. We kind of came around a corner, and there was a little Y in the trail, and we took the left-hand path. And he stopped shortly after, he got on that trail, probably about almost 10 feet into that trail or less. He stops. And I caught up to him, and he said, "Is that a raccoon up there?" And sure enough, it was. It was a big raccoon. It was standing on its hind legs in the middle of the trail, probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 yards in front of us. And he made a step like he was going to just walk to it. I said, no, let's back up and take a different trail. And we started backing up, and the raccoon started kind of trotting towards us. And at that point, I told Gideon, I said, "Run, dude, run." And he started running. I ran for about 2 steps and kind of turned my head and saw this thing just running full speed, and there was no way we were outrunning it. I'm going to stop here and say, if anyone is upset about animals getting hurt, stop listening right now. I'm sorry, but this is the reality of the situation. This is what happened. You can stop listening. You can jump forward. It's your choice. But this thing was full speed, growling and snarling and hissing. And I just knew I had to put myself between it and my son. And now I walk with, of all things, a big staff. It looks like a wizard staff, which is, I've had it covered in different protection symbols, and there's some Latin chants and so forth I've wood burnt around the staff. So I have this, what is for all intents and purposes a wizard staff. And the raccoon's barreling at me, and I had one shot. Like, this thing was going to mess me up. Or get by me and get my son. So I came down upon it with the mighty wizard staff, and I think I probably broke its back with the first blow. And I cannot tell you if that was luck, or if it was divine intervention, or if it was skill. I have no answer to that. I'm pretty sure I broke its back the first hit, and then I was so scared that it was going to come after us, though. I hit it again, then I tripped and fell backwards, and then I thought, oh, now I'm screwed, because if this thing's going to get me, it's going to get me now.
You gave it the high ground.
Yeah. But I scrambled, just full of adrenaline. I have MS, and I fall on hikes fairly often, to the point where if I hike with someone new, I tell them beforehand so they don't think I'm drunk. And it usually takes me a good while to get up when I fall, but I jumped right up somehow. Like I said, I guess it was all adrenaline. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I was so afraid it was going to continue after us that I hit it a couple more times, turned around and ran and caught up with my son, making sure he was okay. We made our way back to the parking area. There was a woman came walking by. She was taking a hike. She had no walking stick. She came by minutes after that. If it had been her, she'd have been in big trouble. And there were very young kids in that part of the park too, that like 6 years old or so. The whole family had 3 or 4 kids, probably ages 6 through 8 or 10 maybe. There was no way they'd have been prepared for that. So if it had to come at somebody, I'm glad it was me. I guess I was the most prepared person for that was there, at that time. But I get back to the parking area, and I thought, well, I better call a park ranger. Call a park ranger and wait for him to show up. It takes him probably 20 minutes to get there. And the name tag on the park ranger, and you can look this up, public record, York County Park Rangers. Their names are out there on the website. This ranger's name was Breedlove. That's wild. Yeah. I mean, what? Literally, what are the chances? I don't know any other breed. I'd never heard the name Breedlove before seeing Seth's name around, associated with the Small Town Monsters movies. I've never known anybody with that name. and at the time it still didn't sink in. I was like, oh, that's weird. He's got the same name as Seth Breedlove. It didn't remember that we had been talking about it. Didn't remember that we were talking about the raccoon. Didn't remember that we were talking about the Eye of Sauron. I was just, at this point, I'm just still filled with adrenaline. Park ranger goes and finds the raccoon, which is dead. Or I think he said it was almost dead. He had to put a bullet in it. Then he brings the raccoon back in a garbage bag and says, were you bitten or scratched? And I wasn't. I was not. So he says, well, we don't test these animals unless somebody's bit or scratched, so I'm just going to throw it in a dumpster. And I was like, well, I mean, don't you think you should know if it's rabid? I said, I'd kind of like to know if it was rabid. He said it had open wounds on its head, and I had like scratches all over my legs from thorns and stuff from hiking that day. I was wearing shorts. So I thought, well, I kind of want to see if this thing is rabid or not. And he said, oh, well, take it to the hospital. They'll test it, which seemed very bizarre to me, but okay. So he literally hands me a garbage bag with a dead raccoon in it. My wife comes and gets my son. We drop him off at his grandparents' house, go into the hospital, and of course, I did not bring a dead raccoon into the emergency room. Something told me they're not going to be too into that idea. And in the course of that, they're like, "No, we don't test dead animals. That's crazy. You got to take it to animal control. Call animal control. We don't want it. You got to call somebody else. I forget who they. And one thing from another. Basically, nobody. We were literally left holding the bag with this dead raccoon. I did get rid of it. We buried it. But on Monday, I was called by the York County Health Department, and they were like, "Where's the raccoon?" And I said, "Well, I buried it. No one wanted to test it, and I can't make anybody do it." They said that no, every animal attack should be tested for rabies. Anyway, the doctor recommended I get rabies shots because like I said, I had open cuts, and the raccoon apparently had open wounds on its head. So I'm in the middle of the whole series of rabies shots now. At some point, I texted you, Clint, during this, and you just went, "Well, we were talking about raccoons just before," and that's when it started. That's when it hit me, like the whole synchronicity of this event, from the raccoons to the Eye of Sauron thing. Like I said, I'm literally carrying what amounts to a wizard's staff. I even made a joke that day. I think I texted you that my only regret was I didn't yell, "You shall not pass," before I dispatched of the foul beast.
And you did describe yourself as a chubby Gandalf.
Yes, you're being kind. I say fat Gandalf, but I'll take chubby. So then it all starts coming together, and then it hits me like, oh my god, the park ranger's name is Breedlove, and all this stuff starts hitting, and like I did not get a good feeling from this. Like I said, normally the synchronicities are these signposts. They're these like wonderful things. It's like sort of like you're on the right track. But this was like a punch to the gut. It was like, ugh. And I don't know if it's because my son was in danger, and it just left me with this like I don't want my son in danger, or anyone I love, obviously, or if it just was a little too real. Normally there's I'm finding owl feathers or skulls hanging on trees or whatever it is. It seems a lot more innocuous than this, and this just really was a punch in the gut, and I did not like it. If I think too much about it, I still don't like it. I mean, that's the Eye of Sauron, right? Like, you don't get to choose what you get. Sometimes you're going to get something you don't like,
For sure. There's definitely the shared experience thing about it as well. I think it was funny that it was a rabid attacking angry raccoon and a less than pleasant park ranger, or helpful at least, maybe just helpful. He didn't want to share anything with you.
Right.
So it was just, it obviously, I do think it could just be, didn't really creep me out. I think to me it was more, of course I wasn't there and I didn't break the damn raccoon's back. So But I did take it as we were on the right path with our conversations and stuff. It seemed to be the universe just kind of playing back. Now, of course, it's a hair-raising tale in and of itself. It's really shocking when you see an animal that would normally do the exact opposite and run away from you, not want you to see anything, have anything to do with them, to come hurtling towards you. That's a terrifying thing.
The other thing about the park ranger, he was just very matter-of-fact about this, which was, I'm like, dude, I got attacked by a raccoon in the woods, like, and he was like, well, that's nature, that's being in the woods. And I said,
that's what happens out here, buddy.
Yeah, I said, I'm 48 years old, man. I've been in the woods. I've been in the woods all my life, like really for 40 years. Like I would roam the woods, probably younger than 8 years old, around the farm, and I never had anything like this happen. And he just was kind of like, whatever, man. This just, that's the way it is.
Did he start citing older cases of other raccoon attacks?
No, he did not. He was, he seemed to want to get on with his day,
Saved you from that, at least.
He had other projects to work on, I guess. Maybe he had a sick kid at home, or, wanted to do selfies or something. I don't know what the case was, but he didn't want to spend a lot of time there in the park.
This is a growing thing in India where people are taking selfies with people who have just been run over in Mumbai in the craziness of the traffic. Someone will get clipped on the side of a highway and people will get out of their car and like take a selfie of them with the victim in the background.
Oh,
it's just so.
Oh man.
It's the idea of if you're doing it on the camera, it's not really real.
I guess, yeah. Oh.
It is the dissociation factor. But again, just as if when I had an English teacher that always told me that if you learn a new word, you use it 3 times without going out of your way to use it, but making a note to use that word where you would normally use something different, then that word becomes yours. And that once that word becomes yours, should be like, you'll hear it everywhere. And you told me that story about the octopi tripping on MDMA. I probably heard it 4 times during newscasts today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in and around the office or in the car. And saw it, obviously, all morning long while doing prep. Somebody had a really cool animated moving photograph on the interweb that some people refer to as peanut butter, but I like to call it GIF. And it was all tripped out and its eyes were real big, it was all psychedelic. I think that I would have seen that story most likely, but I don't think I would have seen it with the frequency that I did, but we talked it up and thus it appeared. It manifested itself.
Yeah. So I don't know how to end this. My son and I did go on another hike. We both decided we got to get back out there right away. We don't want this to impede us. So we went on a hike this past Saturday with no incidents. A squirrel did jump in the leaves nearby, and I think we both jumped. But the squirrel was innocent, and he was not an attack squirrel. He was fine.
I don't know if he was innocent. Right?
Right. Well, I feel like he was innocent.
Sundry times they are essentially rats with cuter outfits. That's a Sex and the City reference right there. Direct Sex and the City reference.
Wow. That's the first time anyone has made a Sex and the City reference on Strange Familiars. I should have some sort of sound effect. That.
If you'll hang on a second, I could probably make that happen. Let's see what we got here. These are actually not very good, but how about just this one? Because I think this goes well with everything.
We will have so much winning that you may get bored with winning.
There you go.
Whenever I'm told to play a song and I'm playing it, because this will happen, it'll be last minute, do this or that, play this or that. Get into it. He's like, okay, turn it up. Nobody can hear it, you know? And I'll start to turn it up. And he'll be like, all right, turn it down. Nobody can hear me. And then I'll be like. So I tweeted that picture out with the books with the little pen on them. And you said you were too interested in looking at the books to notice your own work of art. Yeah,
it took me like, I'm looking at the books like, oh, that looks like a cool book. I like that one. And then about 30 seconds into looking at the picture, it's like, oh, there's my pen.
Right. These Penguin classics are great.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'd asked you if you had read that Perot Farm. I popped that pee pretty well. I asked you if you had read that short story, The Perot Farm. That actually came out of the National Library collection, which are really cool. They're really, really nice stories of spookiness broken out by years. So the book, the Penguin Book of the Undead, is 1,500 years of supernatural encounters, right? So just now, while you were talking about that raccoon, the book threw itself at me from across the room. No, not really. I picked it up, but it did open to this. What the is that?
Hello?
Holy shit, dude. Okay, I gotta look over here at the leak. Dude, I freaked myself out so hard right there. Okay. I didn't even say the title of what I was about to read to you, did I?
No.
Oh my God. Dude, that nearly gave me a heart attack. So there's a leak in the studio because of this insane downpour we're having. So where it was leaking last, when I walked in, it was literally dripping right on the keyboard that's on the other side of the board where Jim sits. So I had to move his keyboard, right? And I put a little, I think it's like a party bowl or something, probably for a really sad Christmas party that was had up here at one point or another. And put a couple of paper towels in there to negate the effect of the Chinese water torture occurring in the studio while we're trying to talk.
Right.
So I have this book open, this Book of the Dead, and what is about to come out of my mouth is that you were, just as you were speaking of the raccoon, I was going to read you, and as clear as day, all of a sudden it sounded like someone was doing on a keyboard, like right next to me. Like it sounded like it sounds when Jim's in here. But it was just about like a foot and a half over, actually right where the sprinkler head is. Water just started pouring out of there, landing on the keyboard where I'd moved it.
Oh, jeez.
But that had to have been picked up on the mic too. Like if we boosted that, because it was right there. And I have my back to it turned because of the way that the studio is set up. And so what I was about to read is a little passage in this labeled Spirits of Malice. And that's what was like, I'm looking at the word malice and I'm thinking of the raccoon. And then I hear man, hang on. We need to take a call. Let's see who this one is now. Radio.
Yeah.
Yes, who's calling?
My name's Jeff.
Where are you calling from, Jeff?
Calling from Sparta, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah? How's the weather out there in Tennessee today?
Right now it's kind of humid and muggy, overcast, occasional sprinkle of rain, but not much.
What do the locals have to say about Bigfoot today?
Bigfoot?
Yes, sir.
Well, opinions vary on Bigfoot. Some people just disregard it along with aliens. Some people will swear to it. Myself, I'm 62. I've lived in these woods all my life. I've seen and heard some strange things. But now I've never walked up on Bigfoot. Let me put it that way.
Right. What are you, you got a percentage of, do you think the chances of it existing?
Say again?
You got a percentage or something that you would say if you had to put money on it, what would you say the percentage would be 50% maybe that they exist? 80?
Oh, I would say more than 50.
All right, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it's like extraterrestrials. You know, there's more a chance that they're there than they're not. You know what I mean? And there's so much unexplored territory in this world that you just can't rule out something like that. Like I say, I've heard some odd things, you know, but never seen one or seen a sign of anything that looked like it.
What did you hear, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Jeff. I'm sorry. He wasn't supposed to speak until spoken to, but that's my intern, Tim.
Yeah.
There are some who call him Tim. Tim.
Okay.
Now you may speak to Jeff, okay?
Okay. Jeff.
Just kidding. He's a good guy.
What are these weird sounds? Can you describe them that you've heard?
Can I what?
Can you describe these? You know, you said you heard some strange sounds. Like, what did you hear? Like, were they screams or what?
Hey, well, here's what the best way I can describe it. Okay. Take a cross between an Indian war whoop and a rebel yell, okay, and magnify it like it wasn't coming out of a set of human lungs, but bigger lungs. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then it sounded like somebody took a wooden baseball bat and hit a tree. It screamed 3 times, real distinctly, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And then I heard this baseball bat on the tree sound 3 times. And it had force behind it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like just an average person took a bat and hit a tree. It was loud. You know, you could almost feel it. But that's my story.
Were you at your home when you heard this?
Once I was at the house, and once I was on the lake up here. We were night fishing probably 25 years ago, and it was still dark, you know what I mean, dark of the moon, and we put our lines out, and we were backed up there having a drink and a snack, and me and a friend of mine we both heard it. But the time I was at the house, I was just by myself.
Did you provoke it either time, or you just heard it?
No, I just heard it. When I was at the house that time, of course, on the lake, you're not going to go anywhere, and even if we pulled up to the bank, it was straight up a hill. There was no way to walk there in the middle of the night. But when I heard it at the house, I did walk probably quarter mile through the woods in the direction of where I heard that, and took my dogs with me, 4 of them.
What kind of dogs you got?
What now?
What kind of dogs do you have?
They're around here what we call a mountain feist. They're kind of like they're an oversized Jack Russell Terrier.
Oh, okay. Right on. Great dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're great dogs. They're short hunters, which means that they won't go very far from you. You know, they'll leave you and they'll go a couple 100 yards and make a circle and come back and find you. They're not like a red bone or a blue tick hound or something that's going to put his nose to the ground and smell something, and you might see him in the morning.
Right. Red bone, by the way, where the red fern grows. Okay, so you and the dogs are following.
Well, we're just walking in that direction, and like I say, probably walked a quarter of a mile, and it was summertime and hot and snaky and sticky, and I didn't really, I put some effort into it, but we walked that way, and the dogs rounded and hunt, and I heard one of my dogs bark one time. She just barked, just 3 short yaps. And the others went to her, and I went and found the dogs, and they were just kind of milling around in a circle and never did strike. Whatever she barked at, she never showed any more interest in it.
That's crazy. What do you think it is out there in the woods?
Oh, man, there's every kind of wildlife out here you could want.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying the thing that makes those noise, that makes that something that isn't.
I don't know. Like I say, I don't know. I've lived in Tennessee all my life, and read these Bigfoot stories and seen the movies, and it's always been in Oregon or Washington or Canada or some, middle of nowhere type place. But I mean, we're in the woods out here, but it's populated. There's plenty of people, but there's lots and lots, and there's hundreds of thousands of acres of woods.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm actually from East Texas, so I know about your area.
They're thick,
right? Yeah,
something can be 30 feet from you, and you'll never know it.
For sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that about southeast of the United States. Now, I'm going to flip your lid here a little bit. Whereabouts in Tennessee do you live?
I live in Sparta.
Close. Okay, so my buddy here, Tim, he's an encyclopedia of knowledge, and I bet you he has something to tell you. Tim,
all right,
go.
Encyclopedia of knowledge. Jeez. 1890 from Oakdale, Tennessee. Oakdale people are excited over the coming and going of a veritable white wild man, a compound of Samson and Esau. A party of men in the street were surprised by the appearance of a tall, broad-shouldered man, naked from the waist up, with hair unusually long on his head, his breast, and his arms. They began to guy him, when he threw one of them over an embankment, and in a pitched fight which followed, whipped 6 of his persecutors. A dozen railroad men finally overpowered and bound him, and locked him in a fruit car. Within an hour he was free, having burst the rope at which he had been tied, and crushed the side of the car as if it had been paper. He subsequently escaped into the mountains, and no anxiety to search for him is displayed. That's a newspaper article from 1890.
Yeah. The only fault I've got with him is they should have cut his throat or shot him through the back of the head or something, and not put him in that car alive. Because I guarantee you, I walk up on something like that, and I'm going to anchor it, I'll have it to show off.
Now that is how you know you're talking to a Tennessee boy, Tim.
Oh, yeah. Ever hunt raccoon with those dogs?
Yeah, they'll run just about anything.
Jeff, have you, before you go any further, you know how to catch a raccoon, though, around your house. If you were just going to use a couple of things from your home, how would you catch a raccoon?
I'd use a live trap. I've got live traps.
Well, now that's kind of cheating. Have you ever heard the thing about what you put in a jug?
Well, you can take an auger and bore a hole in a tree about inch and a quarter, maybe a little smaller. But just bore a hole in this tree. Bore it 4 or 5 inches thick. Put horseshoe nails, like square nails.
Mm-hmm.
Toenail them inside toward that hole. Put a bunch of nails around there.
And then what do you put in the hole to make the raccoon reach in there?
Peanut butter and something shiny.
There you go.
A piece of shiny steel or something like that will glow, and then that peanut butter, they can't resist it.
Well, that sounds like, number one, way more work than just putting a shiny coin in the bottom of a jug. But that was I was educating this guy right here about how to catch a raccoon the other day.
Yeah, you can do that, but I mean, you put it in the jug, and you're going to come back, and your jug and your cone and everything's going to be either gone, or if he's still there, he's going to be a mad son of a gun, and you've got a cone on the ground to deal with, and you don't want a cone on the ground to deal with, because they're bad hombres. You get them,
Don't I know it?
Tim just murdered a coon the other day. A rabid coon.
Really? Had rabies?
Yeah, I got attacked by it. My son and I were hiking, and it came at us in the middle of the day, snarling and growling. I had a big hiking stick with me. I took it out with a stick.
Well, I don't blame you, son. Something like that. You got to do it. I've seen them like that. and other animals too. Deer, I've come up on deer that's been slaughtered. Now they may have had that wasting disease, I don't know, but they've been, walking around just disoriented and wouldn't run from you. Skunks are bad to get it around here.
Yeah. Oh.
And
yeah.
armadillos that's moved in here now, and I guess they can carry rabies too. I know they've got that. What's that other disease they carry? Leprosy.
Yeah, they're weird.
Yeah. But we call them possum on the half shell.
You ever shot at one and just seen him jump straight up?
I've seen them run over on the road, and we've got one here at work. I'm at work right now that, occasionally I'll see going from building to building. But
they're good though to have around a building. They take care of a lot of things that are nasty.
Oh yeah, they eat dead stuff and garbage that the guys throw down during the day, and
they'll also take care of bugs that are gross. And...
Right. I wouldn't just arbitrarily just shoot one. They're kind of an oddity, So I just enjoy watching him run along. Big whiskers on his nose, and they'll just go humping across. One guy I worked with tried to get a picture of it one night, but it wouldn't stand still long enough to pose for it. But you ought to have seen this dude running around with his camera and trying to get it stand still. I said, Jake, hey, what would you have done if that thing turned around, growled at you, and howled, stood up on his hind legs? He said, I guess I'd have crawled up on your shoulders, Goofy.
Yeah. I had a buddy that threw a cocktail at a possum.
Okay.
He had gotten into a stairwell of an apartment complex, and he was not about to let anyone pass.
Right.
And my buddy was trying to get to his condo and get just a little bit closer, and that thing would. So he just took that whiskey drink he had and went,
dude,
threw it at him, and boy, I was glad I was 3 steps behind him rather than 2, because all hell broke loose after that.
You get anything cornered like that, and
right?
It's going to run over you.
There's a reason those old-timey cartoons, when animals would fight, it was just a cloud of dust.
Yeah. They don't go by Marquis of Queensberry rules. They got to survive.
Right.
There's
no Robert's Rules of Order among possum.
No, it's anything goes. They'll bite you in the taint wherever they can.
That was my big fear with the raccoon. I was incredibly worried about my taint, especially when I fell backwards after I broke his back, and I thought he's going to get my balls.
Yeah, they'll go for the soft parts, man. They know what hurts. I've had them cornered, and they're no joke. You better have something that goes bang or something real sharp, that you can work them with.
I told Tim now that if he wanted to make his boy a man, he'd sit him down and not only make him read Where the Red Fern Grows, but watch the movie, the original.
Yeah, that's a great movie. It really is,
Go ahead and teach that boy.
Yeah.
It ain't just the coon that ends up getting it sometimes, Tim.
Right on.
That was a big old yellow dog in that movie, the best I remember, wasn't it?
Well, that was Old Yeller.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Old Yeller. That was a big yellow cur.
Yeah, that dude was bad too, man. And he got the rabies, and the boy had to take care of him.
Yeah. I've got my movies squared away now. That was that blue tick dog.
Yeah, but those red bones, man, and they'd go after those coons, and then he'd hear the howling and screaming.
Yeah. It's I've had mine get them cornered, and they'll eventually back up into a little hole somewhere if they can, a brush pile, or put their back against something, and one of them little fights will run in and grab it, and it's a sickening sound, But
yeah. So you said they're a lot like Jack Russells. Have you ever seen them climb?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine up in Cookville gave me a full-blooded Jack Russell one time, a female. She would literally climb. She'd find a low limb somewhere and jump up on it and get up in a tree, and it just mystified them other dogs.
Right, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to school in Abilene, which should be West Texas, but it's really just Central Texas. So there's a lot of the lower lying trees, with the low branches. And my buddy, his dog, he would get at the base of those little cedar trees or whatever they are, and walk up a limb so that he was eye to eye level with you, and then just sit there.
Yep, just gaze around and look. My cousin went to college in Abilene.
Whereabouts? Abilene Christian?
Yeah, that's the name. It was a Christian school. I'm sure that was it. If she met her husband down there, they're still married.
All three of them are Christian schools, and I had a dalliance with all three, but I'm an ACU grad myself.
Okay.
Good times out there.
I got a friend that lives in Eden, Texas. And we've got somewhere in West Texas.
Eden, as in the Garden of?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Because there's an Edom, like EDOM, in East Texas, and you can get really good mushrooms there if you know where to go. So we'd always say you pick them and eat them. Okay.
All right. I hadn't had any mushroom experience since the 70s, so,
Well, they still feed those cows rye grain somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to know where to look.
Yeah. And there's a certain time that you pick them. You got to get them early in the morning or something, like I've heard.
But I tell you, Tim.
You told me that.
I'm learning this boy. He's a Yankee, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. He'll learn. He'll acclimate, as we say, down here.
I do play banjo, so, I got one foot in that.
There you go.
Yeah. If, just start eating cornbread. Eat all the cornbread you can eat.
Oh, my God, I love cornbread.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a staple.
Had some today. Went to a barbecue joint, had cornbread. So.
Now, I doubt it came out of a cast iron skillet that had been seasoned for 200 years, but,
I've got my grandmother's that I use.
That's the only way I know how to do it.
Oh, yeah, it rolls out. Boy, it's just so pretty and brown and crispy, when you cut it, man, it kind of crunches,
Oh, no, you've got to stop now. It's too late out here for me to get something to eat.
Then you dip it in that white bean soup that you made and swirl it around, get it nice and moist. Crunch, take a big bite, and then put some butter on it, let it melt. Yeah. It was my online gaming name, cornbread.
That's great. What do you do for a living? You're working tonight. You work security or something?
Yeah, I work at a sawmill lumber company / kiln drying operation, and they've got to have like a night watchman, fire watch. When the boiler's running, I check on the boiler and make sure the pressure in the water's right. But,
you ever seen any ghosts in that place?
No, I've never seen anything like that down here. Now, the first house I ever bought back in the early 80s had one in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you tell us that story?
It was an old house. It was a Sears and Roebuck house. Back in the day, the early part of the 1900s, you could buy a complete house.
Yeah, craftsman houses.
Yeah. So the old man was the postmaster in this town. He bought this house, built it, lived in it, died there. Hell, time marched on. I bought it in 82. Okay, me and my girlfriend moved stuff in, set up housekeeping, and there was a front room that it was, I'm going to say octagonal shape. There were 6 sides that went out into the front yard. 6 big windows in it, and it looked right up there on the Cumberland River. And that front room, she remarked that first day we looked at it. She said, it sure is nice and cool in that front room. And it was always cold in that room. That's where I put my pool table and my radio. That was my little party room in there. Okay, we lived there probably a week. And she was real particular about her table setting. She had to have the butter dish here and the sugar and creamer and the salt and pepper shakers just right. A little toothpick holder and a napkin thing, you know. She'd always wipe the table down and sit there and just didn't want nobody touching. So she got up to go to work, heard her go down the steps, rumble around, then she'd come back up the steps just immediately. Started giving me down the road. What are you trying to do? Blah, 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 blah. Babe, what are you talking about? You went down there in the middle of the night and moved my table set. I said, what? You're crazy as hell. Go down, and all the stuff off the table is sitting in the floor in a line. Okay?
Ooh.
Just lined up. So we get in, she just bound and determined I'd done it, and I swore I didn't. Okay. About 3 or 4 days later, we both come home at the same time, and all the kitchen cabinet doors was open. Every one of them, top and bottom. Well, I thought, well, hell, we've been robbed. There's one cop in this little town. I just called him on the phone. He come down. We and him walked through the house. Nothing missing. Nothing was gone. So just kind of dismissed that. But occasionally you'd hear him beat on the wall. He'd bang on the wall. Sometimes we'd hear him walk down the steps. And it had 2 coal fireplaces in it, heated with coal. And occasionally he'd take a piece of coal out of the coal scuttle and throw it out the floor.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you immediately started to refer to him as a him. Was there a reason that you knew that it was a him?
It just felt like a male presence.
Right.
That's the way I can describe it.
So you didn't know anything about who lived there before you or any of that?
Do what now?
Did you ever look into who lived there before you guys, or?
No. He built the house. I think my mother-in-law later on told me that he died during the Second World War and that different people had owned it, you know, just through the years, the so-and-sos. But I never was able to talk to anybody that did. Now, I sold it to a friend of mine, Mickey and Wesley, and they moved in it, and it increased, seemed like. The activity increased. And their son saw him one day standing at the top of the steps.
How old was their son?
He was probably 5 or 6 at the time.
Did he describe what he saw?
Yeah, in detail. He said it was a tall man, old, with a white beard. He was dressed in black. The way he described the clothes was like black pants and a frock coat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he described the shirt. He said he had on a white shirt and buttoned all the way to the top. And it sounded like the way he described it was one of those old-timey shirts that didn't have a fold-over collar. Just
right.
You know. And he was standing at the top of the steps looking at him. The kid refused to go upstairs for probably 2 years after that.
Ooh.
He was a lot bigger. He wouldn't go upstairs. And that was where his playroom was.
Right.
His toys were. They had to move all his stuff downstairs. He wouldn't go.
Now, when you said, like, it sounded like he was knocking the wall, would you describe it as like a knock or like a slap, or how would you describe that sound?
Like you'd taken your fist and banged on the wall. I was leaning against the wall one time, and he banged on that wall, and I felt it. You know, you could feel that it wasn't that there was something doing it, something behind that.
Was it an interior wall?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the wall between the stairwell and my little party room up there, where it was always nice and cool.
Yeah, wow. That was his little run right there.
Yeah, that was where he stayed, in those bedrooms, the kitchen, top of the stairs, and the party room right there. And like I say, that party room was always cold. It's always cool.
It's interesting you say that it seemed like the activity increased. We'll hear sometimes about the longer something is in a place like that, they get more forceful, I guess, or gain the ability to be more vocal.
Wesley, and you may have heard this before, if your father dies before you're born, you've got a tick, as they say. Wesley could witch warts off. He could cure thrash. He was kind of about a half a witch, you know what I mean? And he laid that to the fact that he didn't know his father. His father died before he was born. And I've read about that in Foxfire books.
Yeah.
And he was a real good artist. Wesley could paint, draw, anything, you know. And he was kind of, I don't know, Wesley was odd. I'll just put it there. You ever looked at somebody and they give you that look like, ha ha, I know something you don't know. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
He had that look. He always had that look about it. But it picked up after they bought it. And then probably they lived there till they got divorced and Wesley moved out. Mickey and the kids stayed there. And I'd already moved off up here to East Tennessee. And I went down there one time just to ride around and saw Mickey in the yard and pulled up to talk to her, and she invited me in. And when I went in the house, I could tell something was different. It felt different. Just completely, there was a completely different atmosphere there. And we sat down, drank coffee. I said, well, what about, I said, have you been any activity? I forget how I said it, you know. We called him Old Mose. I said, has Old Mose been stirred up? Said, no. Said, after Wesley left, said, he ain't nothing happened. So when Wesley moved out, I think old man kind of calmed down.
Yeah, he may have just been aggressive. He might like having a lady there all to himself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it may have soothed him.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, never thought of that.
In Pennsylvania, we call that, when like people who can charm warts off, we call that powwow.
Okay.
They got a local name for it there? Like we call them powwow doctors here.
We just call them like just wart witchers.
Oh, okay.
Warts off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People like that can witch warts, and Wesley I had a bunch of them on my hand, seed warts, and he grabbed my hand and rubbed it and muttered something, just kind of mumbled, you know, blah, 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 rub these warts, and he told me, he said, now just forget about it, Jeff. Don't think about it. Forget about it. Okay. And I guess after 2 or 3 days, I did. You know, I didn't look at them or didn't try to do anything. And within a week, every one of them was gone. They'd never been back.
Wow.
I've heard that before. I've heard it before, and it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it is. My daughter was born when they were living there, and she got the thrash, which is an infection. Infection kids will get in their mouth. It kind of makes blisters, you know. We took her to the doctor, and they gave her this purple stuff put on it. Well, 2 or 3 days it worked, and then it quit working. And I called Wesley. I said, man, Megan's got the thrash. You got anything for that? Yeah, bring her over. And he took and laid her up in his arms, just like he was cradling her. Petted her a minute, got her laughing, and took his hand and made it, I just put it over his lips and blew into her mouth. Just 2 or 3 times. Rubbed her on the head, muttered something, you know, played with her and handed her back, said, all right, take her home. And within 24 hours, all them blisters were gone.
Wow.
You know, they were, you know, they were just gone.
Yeah, see, that kind of folk medicine, I love hearing the stories of it. I love and it's disappearing. You know, those kind of old, those old ways. It's disappearing. So I love hearing stories about it.
Yeah, people don't do that anymore. You know, that was a generation before me where that was common. You know, and it's all but disappeared now.
Yep.
You know? It's all gone.
I wonder if it's disappeared or if it's just the fact that the people that have those tendencies don't display them as often.
Yeah, they may not recognize they've got them.
Right, that too.
Nobody around to tell them anything. You know, there ain't no teachers left. The ones that are, they're old. They're the ones in the nursing homes now, you know.
Yeah. That's kind of why I think it's important to talk about that stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad we answered the phone when you called. You got any more stories, Uncle Jeff?
Dude, I've got hours of them probably.
I'm loving this, Tim.
Oh, heck yeah, man.
We're eating this up, man.
I'm just now coming up on a building last week. Of course, occasionally I walk through these buildings, you know, take my flashlight, just, you know, fire watch, see that nothing's overheated. And I went through this hall, started in this hall right here, and flicked my flashlight on, and there was bobcat at the other end of it. There's a bunch of cats around here, like feral cats.
Mm-hmm.
And the foxes and bobcats come and hunt these cats. And me and this bobcat was sharing this little narrow hallway right here.
That's a lot of fun.
Oh, man, both of us were just in a big hurry to get out. You know?
Yeah, they don't play, man.
No, then this was a hoss, too. He probably weighed 45 pounds, 45, you know.
Yeah, there's a big one that's right out here outside our building. I'm actually in Dallas. We have a big, there's studios here. This is what we do. We talk about this weird stuff.
I read a series of books by a guy named Carlos Castaneda, or Castaneda, ever how you'd say it.
Wow.
And that's what he did, you know, but in Mexico, he did his PhD or whatever on medicinal and psychotropic something by the shamans in Mexico. And he journeyed off down to Mexico and hooked up with this guy and done all this peyote and dust and this and that, and had visions. And it was it seemed like there was 7 or 8 books in this series.
I think he ended up writing 11.
11, okay. I knew there was a pack of them.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, while we're sitting around talking about synchronicity, I was telling Tim about Castaneda last night.
Yeah. It's amazing.
That's why Tim said, wow.
Yeah. He was pretty cool, you know.
So I don't think I told this in the microphone, Tim. This was when I called you, right?
Yeah, we were just talking on the phone.
So I'll tell Jeff, so then we have it here. So we had actually been talking about synchronicity on the microphone, and then I talked to him after I'd left. So this would have been right around 99, 2000, somewhere around in there. I'm in college, but I still come home to East Texas on and off quite a bit. And it was one of those weekends when I was down seeing some of my friends. And at the time I was getting a philosophy degree. So I was reading some really cool stuff. And I'm hanging out with one of my best buddies, and an older friend of his was in town and hanging out with us. I'd never met this guy before. Really solid. We hit it off right away. And he was telling me, he's like, dude, have you ever read any Castaneda? And I said, no. He was like, dude, you read those books, man. They'll make you a Jedi.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me find out about that, right? So that is a Saturday night. Sunday morning, I go to church with my parents and pack my stuff, and I'm driving back to Abilene. It's about a 4-hour drive from Tyler. And I'm right outside of town, and I call my roommate, and they're not at our place. They're at our other friend's place, and one of those party houses. And that guy, he's actually a philosophy professor at a major university now. But that's where the girls were and the guys, and a little bit of those left-handed cigarettes and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I rolled into town, and I'm literally given some medicinal right as I walk in, and I sit down on a couch, and I kind of get to coughing, and I look down, and Jimmy had this big glass coffee table. There was glass on the top and it was glass on the bottom, and there was never anything on it. He was kind of a neat freak.
Right.
And I cough, and have my hands on my knees, and I open my eyes, and on the second level of that coffee table, placed there directly so I could see it and read it, was Carlos Castaneda's Teachings of Don Juan, a Yaqui Way of Knowledge.
Yeah.
And I look over there, I'm like, Jimmy, what the hell is this all about, dude? I mean, this would have been 10 hours earlier that this guy's like, you need to get this book. It'll make you a Jedi. Yeah. And I looked down, and he's like, oh, yeah, I was in the bookstore last night at TCU, which is where his father taught. And he was like, I just thought it looked cool. Like, okay, I'll be taking this.
Yeah, they were. That was some pretty intense writing right there.
That's good stuff.
He got deep into his work.
Yeah. I thought it was unfortunate how he was discredited because he admitted that he took the medicine, but the philosophy that he ended up, that whole warrior mentality of living your life, it's one of those that's got a little bit of that Eastern bent to it, and how to be in control of things, and none of that stuff has anything to do with the drugs. I think
he went against the mainstream. He went against the establishment, and the establishment don't want an educated, empowered public. So if you show the public the way to get educated and empowered, they're going to shout you down. I don't care who you are.
They're going to throw you out on an island and tell everybody you're crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That is so insane that you thought of casting.
I know, out of nowhere. We were just talking about it yesterday.
So that's that right there. That's the universe right there, reacting and speaking to it and reacting.
And a guy from Sparta, Tennessee, to beat all.
No, I know. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Before we get off the phone, I'm gonna have to get your information. But I'm gonna ask, just because I'm greedy. You got one more. Let's see. Think how we would do this. Tell me the weirdest thing maybe that someone else has told you that happened to them that you might know that you would trust around those parts. Or Tim, you got a better question?
You know what I always ask? You ever seen the will-o-the-wisp lights in the woods?
Yeah, sure have.
Can you tell us about it?
There's a place down in West Tennessee called Land Between the Lakes.
Oh yeah,
my goodness gracious! I know all about that place too.
Okay, well, it was a bunch of old towns before TVA took it over and they moved everybody out. There's still old church spots and graveyards and whatnot. Okay, we had a permit to hunt up there. This has been in the late 70s. All right, so we went up there one night, and I run with a bunch of guys that coon hunted at the time. So we pull up and let the dogs out. We're sitting in the truck, listening to the dogs, and across this little road from us we'd parked it where an old church and a graveyard was. And it was just the foundation of the church, stone foundation. The building was gone. The old graveyard was growed up. There's probably 15 or 20 graves in it. And we're all three looking at this graveyard, and out of the woods comes two, looked like silver balls, bigger than a basketball. One right behind the other, and it didn't look like they'd hit the ground, but they were looping. They didn't go in a straight line, kind of bounced. and they bounced along and went into that graveyard, boom, boom, just like they went in the ground. And that freaked us all out, you know. We started trying to find the dogs and get out of there. It was kind of unnerving, you know.
What's the native history of that land between the lakes that you know of?
Well, it was, of course, everything around here was Indian land at one time, and then the white people moved in, and there was a lot of there was a lot of farmland up there. It was big, beautiful. From what I'd heard about it and what I'd read, just big, beautiful, long rows of corn and whatnot in the Tennessee river bottoms, and then in the Cumberland river bottoms on the other side. A lot of different little communities. There was one little community up there named Tharp that I've heard during the Prohibition days that this one little store would sell a trailer load of sugar every week to the whiskey makers in the area. They went through that much sugar every week.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of mash coming out of there. Trailer load of sugar making a lot of whiskey.
You ever stumbled across somebody that had a little stash in the woods?
No, but it's anymore. I mean, I've seen stills operating. When I was a kid, my uncles made whiskey, and they had brandy stills where they'd make wine and then distill the wine.
Right.
Had little 5-gallon brandy stills. And
those places are kind of creepy to come across, too, you know.
Oh, yeah, because, it's like coming across a big pot field.
Right.
You know that, somebody's going to know you were there. And these days, everybody's got game cameras up, so, you're getting your picture taken in a lot of places that you don't think of. But even back then, we'd start walking in, you'd see a sign of where somebody had been through the woods and wore a trail out. The next thing you know, bang, there's, 25, 30 big, nice female plants, and they're all staked out. So, usually just best thing to do, just turn around and walk off or walk around it like you didn't even see it. I've never had any trouble like that.
I want to come out there and hang and land between the lakes with you. You take me out there?
It's a nice place. They've got buffalo pen. You can see buffalo. They've got a thing up there called the 1812 or something, the old home place where you walk through this tunnel, and it's just like walking back in the 1800s. So they've got reconstructed cabins, and the women are making soap and churning butter, and they put out a garden. The men are out there working with mules, and everybody's in period clothing. It's really nice. Got a blacksmith shop, just like everything you'd need for a small farm in 1800.
Yeah, I mean, I like all that. I want to go out there and get spooked. Maybe see that werewolf that lives out there. You've heard that story, right?
I've never heard of the werewolf. No.
Or, well, what I guess they call him, it's like a person with a dog head.
Yeah.
You hadn't heard any of that?
Yeah, no. I've heard about him in Louisiana. They call him a Lucaroo.
Yeah. No, there's one associated with Land Between the Lakes.
Really?
Bigfoot too. Been a bunch of Bigfoot sightings there.
Well, I can believe that. There's a lot of open country around there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just to make sure I wasn't 100%. So that would have been the Shawnee tribe that had settled right there.
It had been Creek or Cherokee.
Really?
In that part of Tennessee. Shawnee were kind of more up in southern Illinois, eastern Kentucky, north of there. But it was Cherokee and Creek mostly there.
Okay, I love that. That's me, Tim's Cherokee. That's what I got in me, because they made it all the way down to East Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just you were talking about that old cemetery and the lights and everything, and a lot of times those things that people say, look like werewolves are associated with cemeteries.
Well, I don't know.
It's weird stuff.
I mean, I've seen the old werewolf movies and stuff like that, but I've never heard of anything in local tradition around here
Right.
that had to do with it. But no, hell, the way I see it, anything's possible.
Now, so am I wrong? Is the Blair Witch thing in Tennessee?
Bell Witch.
No, somewhere up in the northeast of Bell Witch, there's a Bell Witch in Tennessee.
That's what I meant. The Bell Witch. Yeah. Have you been in that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been in that cave.
Ooh.
There we go. Now there we go. See, I know my stuff. I just used the wrong name there for it. No, so what's the deal with the whole, like, I know the story of the Bell Witch. You can tell us what you know about it. What's the deal with this? You have these people that are, there seems to be a lot of witchery in the Tennessee way. You know?
Yeah, probably is. There's a lot of Cherokee and Creek heritage up in here, and those people are known for that type stuff. So it just kind of that's up in Robertson County, that Bell Witch.
That's a weird story, man. That's a freaky one.
Yeah, her name was Kate Batts, and she lived with a family. Their name was Bell. And of course, there's all different stories. I think she was a slave, and I'm thinking Mr. Bell had something going on with her. It was a man-made thing, and she just got mad and just cursed the whole bunch of them. But there's a cave up there that supposedly you can go in and call her up. We all rode up there one night and went in this cave, but didn't see no witch, it was just a big cool cave with a big spring running out of it. But I think this has been back in the 70s. I think it's all closed now. I don't think you can even go on the property.
I think they have tours. They have like guided tours, I think.
Okay.
You'd have to get permission, basically.
Yeah. You pay for the tour, I think, and then they'll take. I don't know if they take you into the cave or just to the mouth of it. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's money behind it now. Somebody bought that and, decided they could make a buck.
That's incredible. This is kind of what we do. We actually, that's my favorite thing, is to hear stories from people that experience the things that bring mystery to the world.
Right.
And I kind of feel like you do, that it's a damn shame that people are getting away from that. And I don't understand why.
People don't recognize that there's more dimensions than what they're in, They think if you can't touch it or see it or smell it, that it's not there, But there's other dimensions. Hell, Einstein said that. He was a lot smarter than I was. So,
Maybe. I don't know.
I bet he couldn't catch a coon, though.
Damn straight.
No, he may have trouble doing that.
Well, the thing about Einstein, though, that made him really cool was that he said, man, I hope somebody comes along and disproves everything I said, because then that means we've advanced the ball.
Right.
He wasn't upset about it. He didn't have a big head and get all dogmatic and say that this is the way that it is and it ain't never going to be another way. Because he knew at the end of the day, we ain't never really going to figure out what's going on. It's just trying to figure out as much as we can.
Right.
That's where I am, That's where I am. I love hearing all the stories. So are you a technologically savvy man, Jeffrey?
No, not really. No, I've got a smartphone that's smarter than I am. All I can do is, I can Google something, or I got a Facebook, but other than that, I don't,
I'd love to stay in touch with you. I'd especially love for you to hear how we're going to end up turning this into an amazing conversation, because before you called, we were having the conversation about synchronicity. It was like you were listening last night. Have you ever caught those, the Old Crow Medicine Show?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Every time I talk about that cave, there's a cave in Kentucky that they actually have concerts inside of it.
Horse Cave, I bet.
Maybe so. And I saw it on PBS one time.
Yeah.
Old Crow Medicine Show playing inside that cave. I was like, man, that looks like that'd be so much fun.
I saw Bela Fleck and his wife, Abigail Washburn, play in there.
There you go. Old Bela Fleck's a good dude.
He's a pretty good musician.
Oh, yeah. But he is actually a fantastic guy.
I have a Bela Fleck story. I went to something called the Maryland Banjo Academy. There's just this gathering of banjo players from all over the country. And it was down in Maryland. I went there. It was on the campus of a seminary school down there, outside of Frederick, Maryland, not far from where Blair Witch was filmed, Synchronicity. And I'm there, and I had a break between classes. I play like clawhammer, like the old style, the old time banjo style. I don't do much with like the Bela Fleck style, but I had a break in between classes, and I just walked into the chapel. I was just going to sit down. So I sit in the back of the chapel, and there's a bunch of people sitting in the front of the chapel, and Bela Fleck walks out. And I had walked into his class, and he looks around, and he says, look, I got a half an hour. There's nothing I can teach you guys in a half an hour. I'm just going to play music for you. So he sits down, and he brings out a group of Indian musicians, a tabla player, a tambura player, and I forget, one other Indian musician, I think. And he proceeds to play a raga for 20, 30 minutes, however long it was. The whole time he's playing this raga. He's playing it on banjo. He's playing the sitar parts. And to do the string bends, like with the sitar, he's using the tuners to go in and out of tune. The most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Blew my mind. And I just randomly walked into it. And it was so cool. Just got, this private Bela Fleck concert there was about maybe 20 people there. It was amazing.
Great stuff, man. Tim's actually, you're pretty close to Gettysburg, isn't that what you told me?
Oh, yeah. I go often.
That Gettysburg place is crazy, too.
Yeah, I bet. I'd say there's several spokes around Gettysburg.
No doubt.
Yeah, they say that's one of the most haunted places in the world.
I've got a walking stick from the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg.
No.
That, like the survivors that showed up.
Yeah.
They got a commemorative walking stick. And I've had one of them. I've had that probably 35, pushing 40 years now.
Does it have anything carved on it?
No, but it's got, it's just a hickory walking stick, kind of tiger stripe. But it's got a blank space up there near the head. It's just a knob head, just a plain looking hickory stick. But it's got Gettysburg Battlefield, 1863, 1913.
Wow.
And I've done a bit of research and found that, that 50th anniversary and the veterans that came, all the veterans got a walking stick if they wanted one.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
It made it from there to an auction I went to and bought an old metal milk can that had a bunch of walking sticks in it. And I bought the milk can and all the sticks, and it was just in there amongst these others.
Now, wait a minute. Did you say that you had a cousin that went to Abilene Christian University?
Yeah.
Do you know if he teaches there?
No, it was a she. She just went to school there. She lives in Murfreesboro, Tennessee now.
Okay, so I typed in Jeff Gould in my Facebook.
Right.
Well, I was just going to say the second name, Jeff Gould. Abilene Christian University, director of the choral activities at ACU.
Yeah, that ain't me.
Yeah, but
synchronicity.
Jeff, that's the synchronicity right there. Like, I don't think he said he taught there, and it was a she. That's crazy.
Wow.
You're blowing my mind today. I like it.
Yeah, oh, cool.
Hey, what color were those will-o-wisp lights? Were they? I know you said they were silver, but were they like glowing silver, or were they glowing at all, or they just?
They were. The best way to describe it, shiny. They weren't. It wasn't like there was a light coming off of them, but it just shined.
They look metallic, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Did you hear any sounds associated with them, or just silence?
Nothing. Just that sight. Here they come, just bouncing.
Which is almost creepier in a way, just quiet like that.
Yeah. It was. It really was. But like I say, it creeped us all out. Everybody got out of there.
Yeah, I've seen weird lights in the woods, but not like they were weird colored lights, and they were smaller than that.
Right.
We had a reoccurring light phenomenon that's outside of Abilene in a little place called Anson. And it was close to a graveyard. They call it the Anson lights, but it would be the thing where, maybe you'd take 2 cars out.
Have you ever tried to witch in a graveyard? Like find water? You've seen people witch water.
My father was a water witch.
Okay, well, you can do the same thing with a grave. If you can find water, you can find a grave. Those rods will cross when you walk over a grave or when you walk past a row of graves. I learned that from a woman that found graves for the sons of Confederate veterans.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't used it for that. I have used it to find water. I saw my dad do it. We were getting a new well dug on the farm, and these well diggers came out, and they must have drilled 3 holes, and they weren't hitting water. And I saw my dad walk over to an oak tree, and he snapped a branch off, a Y-shaped branch, and he held on either fork of that Y, and he walked around the yard, and it pointed down, and he said, "Drill there." And sure enough, they drilled there, and they hit water first time.
Yeah, I use copper wire. Like bend it in kind of an L shape.
Yeah, I've got a copper pair myself. Someone gave it to me. So I actually carry them. I do a lot of hiking. I carry them with me everywhere I go.
Yeah. You go next time you're by a graveyard, take them coppers out and get 15, 20 foot from the end of a row of graves, and then just walk past that row and you watch them rods. They'll meet one another, and then as you walk past that row, they'll straighten out. Get to the next row, they'll bend back in.
I'm definitely going to try it.
Yeah. And you can tell if it's a man or a woman. Take one, and if it's an unmarked grave, walk and stand on top of it and take one of them and hold it over your head. And if it points north, that's a man. If it points south, it's a woman.
Whoa.
That's awesome. I'm glad we got that on tape, because I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah. They'll point different ways.
I like how you guys call it witching,
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people I hear, they call that dowsing.
Right. I've heard it, but in this part of the world, it's just they're a water witch.
Yeah, that's what my dad called it.
Love that.
Yeah, water witches.
Maybe we're too close to where, we don't have a whole lot of things that we call witches in Texas, And I really do sometimes wonder if that's a really strong Bible Belt thing.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a difference between Scotch-Irish and English or German or French or whatever. You know what I mean? It goes back generation on generation, hundreds of years,
Really?
Where you descended from. Yeah.
So the Scotch-Irish use the witch term is what you're saying?
Yeah, Scot-Irish are more prone to use that, They were a little bit more Gnostic about things, I guess you could call it, pragmatic or whatever.
Yeah. Gnostic, there's another word that's thrown around.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Gnostic Gospels last night as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You ever read those, Jeff?
I've glanced through them, but I've never been able to just get deep into them. I've listened to some YouTube
Right.
videos about them, just to kind of get a sketch of them, but I've never sat down and...
Just some really cool stories, just of adolescent Jesus.
Right.
Doing wizard things in front of people, and his dad's always like, Jesus, you gotta stop doing that. I'm in public.
You gotta quit it, man.
Don't get in trouble if you don't stop.
People talking about us, though.
Right. And you know that stuff had to happen. We were just having the conversation about why did the Council of Nicaea want to make sure that all of that stuff was out?
Right.
Why did they want to remove magic? I just don't get it.
They wanted to control people.
Yeah.
It's all about control.
You're right.
Yep.
It's all about, I don't care if it's religion, politics, whatever, money, you name it. It's all about control. That's what it comes down to. You got to control the masses.
And that's why they didn't like those psychedelics.
Yes, right. People's getting out of control, learning things that they shouldn't.
Right. You're not supposed to be eating from that tree of knowledge. No, what are you doing?
You're supposed to know that.
Right.
You're supposed to believe what we tell you.
Right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right on, man.
You don't believe what you see, believe what I tell you.
Exactly. Man. Do you still live pretty close to where you heard those howls and stuff? How long ago was that?
Probably been 10 years. Yeah, I don't live far from it. It's at just the other end of the county.
So you got other buddies up there that are into it too?
Just one that will admit to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But everybody else, they're not. They just kind of roll their eyes up. It's kind of like talking about it. You'll get more talk out of an alien than you would a Bigfoot.
Right.
But now Eddie, he's a believer. I don't know what made him a believer, but he is.
I don't know how you could drive from Memphis to Nashville in the middle of the night and not think that there are creatures out in those woods.
Oh, listen, I used to work with this black dude, Lennon. All right, and we worked for the state highway department. We'd have to push snow at night or sometimes work in the night. And you could get him up in the truck with you and get to talking about that stuff, and he would literally freak out. You know what I mean?
Right.
He would, and I used to do it to him just to mess with him. Oh man, I'd say, boy, there ain't no telling what's standing off in them woods. What's looking at us? You can't see 50 foot off in there. How do you know what's in there? When his eyes would start getting bigger, man, he'd fidget, and get to jerking and looking around.
There's a black guy that works at the sports radio station here in town that I worked at for a long time. And if you mention 666 around him, he's like, he'll get up and leave the room. Be on the air and do it.
Yeah.
We just, man, why y'all saying that? I just don't like, he's just like, I just don't like it. Just don't think there's any reason for you to say it.
I got a friend of mine, he's from Chicago, grew up in the gangster hood, the Latin Kings deep in it, and just walked away from it about 5 years ago and wound up down here. And it's the same thing amongst Spaniards in the hood. They don't deal with that, They don't, you don't want to be talking about no ghosts, no Bigfoot, no nothing like that, They don't. It must be a hood thing, I guess.
I have a lady friend in New Orleans. She works with a few Creole folks, and she was messing with them about what are your thoughts on Bigfoot? And one of those ladies just looked at her and said, Bigfoot is not my struggle.
Not my struggle. I don't have.
I love that, right? That's true too. That's the way they don't f with it. That's how.
Right. That is not my struggle. It's pretty good.
I enjoyed that one quite thoroughly. Yeah, man, that stretch between Nashville and Memphis is just, it's like you have to get gas before you go.
Yes.
There ain't shit out there except there's like some creepy porn store banners,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
That is a spooky drive, man.
Yeah. Especially when you get like between Memphis or past Jackson, between Jackson and the Tennessee River, when it comes into all them flat bottomlands right there over that river, you know, that's some desolate places in there.
It's like the killing fields out there or something. It's just, but it really is one of those places where, and we've had that conversation. You were mentioning that about the woods earlier. I don't care what kind of compass you're trying to take into that. Like, you get out of your car and start walking in there, you ain't coming out. You know,
you better have a sense of direction.
Yeah,
you know where you're going.
It just seems like that some of those places down through there ain't no telling what's out there. And I ain't even really as worried about a monster as I am a person.
Right. A person can go missing out there. You know what I mean? There's people in this world that do nothing but hunt other people. You know, that's what they do. That's their sport. They may go to work or they may draw a crazy check or something, but they hunt people. And that's how people just come up missing. You know, when the hunters got them, they're just gone.
And that's an easy place to disappear too.
Oh yes.
And like nobody out there is going to cooperate with authority either. That's one thing maybe that the North doesn't understand quite as well as we do.
Yeah.
Calling us snitches?
No, you heard the term Dixie Mafia being used yesterday, Tim. That meeting. I grew up with Dixie Mafia folk.
Yep.
The only time I've ever gone back and taken something out of a podcast that I did was because somebody in Tyler, Texas called me and said, "Hey man, you think you really want to put that in that podcast?" He's like, I was like, "Yeah, you're right. Dixie Mafia is real. Okay, I'll stop."
Yeah, they are.
And it was just because I told the story. It was a great story, but and it wasn't. I wasn't trying to. It had no malice to it. But he's like, they probably don't want people knowing they have catacombs underneath their houses, man. Leave those people alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's just crazy that if you had called up here other times, there's just hardly ever anybody up here. I'm just a night owl, and we'll pop in here and do stuff like this. Hey, are you about to be in like an abandoned building, or what are you doing?
Right now, I just got back in the truck and driving up through what we call the bottom right here next to the dry kiln and the boiler.
I just had this great idea that I was like, if you're in this spooky old building, man, we should just have you hold the phone up and we'll record on this end and just see what happens.
Let me go up here to the top of the hill where the old mill is. It's closed down. We've got two mills. One's running, one's closed. So let me go up here at the top of the hill to the number one mill.
How old is that mill?
Probably was built in the 50s, I'd say. Maybe the early 60s. Yeah, okay. I'm at the number one mill right here. It's dark as sin. Blacker than a Chicago cop's heart, let me tell you.
Oh, my goodness. Like that. What do you think, Tim? Do you think we'll be able to score a live EVP of some form or fashion?
It's happened to me before, so we'll see.
Really? But through this kind of a medium?
I was interviewing a guest and call it just a clear as day EVP.
Really?
Well, there was a man got killed on this, what we call a sorting train, like where the lumber comes off the mill, comes off in boards. There's a guy called the grader, the lumber grader, and he walks along this conveyor belt, sort of, I guess you could call it. It's probably 40 foot long and 8 foot wide, and grades this lumber, number one, number two, number three, whatever.
So he's judgmental.
And he got killed on this very chain right here. Got caught up in the chain that just chewed him up.
Well, what do you think we should do, Tim? Just ask out loud, me and you, or should we have him ask?
Well, he's there if he's willing to do it.
Well, are you willing to say something into the darkness?
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm calling for you. I called him Slim. Slim! You in here? Hey. Got these boys on the telephone. Come here. Come on out. I don't know, but every hair on me just stood up. I may have just talked myself into it. I don't know.
Ooh.
Slim, don't be scared. You're dead. That can't hurt you. On out. Ain't no harm. Yeah, I don't know. I've still got the heebie-jeebies, but...
Let's give him a minute, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn Tim and I's mic off for just a second.
All right.
Tell him I got a boy on the phone from Texas and one from Pennsylvania. And the one from Pennsylvania said he was happy that the North won.
Oh, cool.
Whoa. Hey, Slim, you two boys on the phone? One of them's from Pennsylvania. And he said he's happy the North won. What do you think? You want to talk to him? Huh? Or you want me to just whistle Dixie? Plenty of bugs around here. Come on out, buddy. He's from Pennsylvania now. He's a genuine Yankee. You know how they are. Well, something clicked back there in the back.
All right, I tell you what.
Come on out, buddy. They won't talk to you, sure enough. This ain't no joke. If you're here, just come on out. They're firm believers just like I am.
All right, I tell you what. Now just hold it there, and let's just all be quiet for a second.
All right.
Okay?
Okay. I'll just hold it out.
Yeah, just hold it out there. Hey, Slim, come on out, man.
Y'all hear that? Y'all pick that up?
No, I didn't hear. What'd you get?
Let's let it roll because I feel like I've heard a few things. So even if you hear something, just hold it. I know you're there, so it's easy for me to say that.
All right.
Okay, Slim, we can hear you, man. All you got to do is come over there and say something into that little phone he's got. Okay, let's be silent. This is kind of fun. Dude, what the fuck was that?
Y'all are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm getting out of this mill.
Tim, were you talking?
I was not.
Did either one of y'all hear that?
I heard something.
Holy... Ooh.
Once I just got the feeling I needed to leave there. I don't know what it was. I'm in the truck.
Dude,
that's fine. You pay attention to that feeling.
No, for sure. There is no... I honestly... If everybody just stop real quick and let me save just this little clip here, and then we'll play with it. But just hang tight for 2 seconds. Don't say anything. Okay, we're back recording. I think this is gonna work. I got creep. Tim, I thought you were talking to her.
No, my mic was muted. I muted my mic.
Whoa. This is kind of fun. Did y'all hear that?
I did.
Dude, what the was that?
Yeah, that's what I was hearing. That kind of like warbly, liquidy sounding.
So, Jeff.
Yeah.
You weren't talking right there.
No.
Okay, are we all hearing this the way that I'm hearing it? That it sounds like there's something low. Higher pitch, like
Yeah.
First, and then it sounds like there's a deeper voice going.
Yeah, I heard that part, that low part.
Okay, now listen to this again. I think it must happen right after I said this is kind of fun. It's real faint, but it's the way that it happens. It sounds like it's like sentence related. This is kind of fun.
Yeah, I heard that. They've been on Clint.
Right there, then. See, I still have both of y'all down.
Yeah.
Look. That.
Yeah. That's what I was hearing.
Yeah.
Are y'all hearing that right there?
Yes.
Okay, do you hear this? This one may be a little bit harder over the phone. I don't know. But see if you can pick this up again. This is creepy. Dude, it says something along, I think, I swear to God I hear it say, I think something. And that's not, like, I haven't boosted it or touched it or cleaned it up at all. I just, like, grabbed it from the little audio file. That was wicked.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that, Jeff?
That's pretty wild.
And you, it didn't take very long. You got chili bumps on you.
Yeah, it wasn't 5 minutes, or less.
No, it seemed like right after you said his name it happened.
Yeah. I got to calling him and then, kind of talking to him. Then I just held my phone up at arm's length away from him for maybe a minute or so. And then I got that cold rush. And, just that, I call it that butt tightening feeling that you get something ain't right when your butt scrunches up. It tells you to, go. Oh well.
Yeah, man. I know exactly what you're saying. That was great. I think we're gonna have to make this a regular occurrence, Tim. We're gonna get Jeff on the horn, see if he wants to go talk to Slim in the mill.
Yeah, we can do that.
It's fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, I have relatives on both sides of that conflict back there in the 1860s.
Okay, well, cool. All mine were on the Confederate side. Several great uncles and grandparents and whatnot. But there was several skirmishes fought around here, but not, no large battles, not like Franklin or Nashville or anything like that, or Shiloh. I've been to that Shiloh battlefield. That's a real nice place.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I got actually relatives on both sides. Both my mom's side and my dad's side were on both sides of the Civil War.
Right. It got a lot of stuff. There was a lot of conflict, especially here in East Tennessee. East Tennessee kind of went more Union than Confederate, and there was a lot of hard feelings up in this part of the state between different home guards. The Union Home Guard and the Confederate Home Guard.
Mm-hmm.
It's still that way up here. There's a lot of alliances and families that were formed and split up over it, and they're still that way, But it's filtered down into politics now, Democrat or Republican. Nobody ever about conflict much, but that's where it all started.
Yeah. Like, my dad's people were in Kentucky and West Virginia, and West Virginia was split the same way. They had areas that were Union.
Right.
You could be one side of the mountain, be Union, and the other side be Confederate.
Yeah, that's what sparked the Hatfield and McCoy deal, you know. It's what got those hard feelings started.
I'm going to have to go, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that this panel up here is going to fall in.
All right, man.
I never told you, Jeff, but we're getting a downpour.
Really?
Yeah, and we figured it out a couple weeks ago. It rained real bad on the weekend that Jim came in and his keyboard was wet.
Yeah.
And tonight, there are flash flooding warnings in the area before 8 o'clock this evening. And they already said the worst is going to be between 10 and 6. And actually, just looking at the radar before we started doing our lab investigation, and it just looks the same as it did 6 hours ago. And that whole panel up there above his chair, like I've got a couple of buckets over there, but that whole panel's now wet. And it's, you know, that I'm not exactly confident in how sturdy it is. And I would hate for that thing to fucking fall through and a bunch of water spill down here and ruin everything. And they'd be like, Clint, you were there, and what were you doing? I was like, well, man, we were talking to Slim.
Trying to conjure up Slim out of Sawmill.
You son of bitches don't understand. We're making contact, man.
Right. We were just before making contact.
And Slim made the waterfall.
Yeah, it was Slim. He done it.
Dude, that was creepy, and I loved it. And like I said, I sent you that stuff, and I'll be in touch, man. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet you, Jeff.
Yeah, man, this has been great. I've enjoyed talking to y'all. It's really, you know, it's been enlightening, and it's broke up the monotony out here to get to talk to somebody.
Man, but you talk about enlightening. Your stories were all just, we were both like, holy.
On point, man. The stories are on point.
I'm going to go ahead and go. And if I don't hear from you, then I'm gonna pester you, okay?
Yeah, sure. Call anytime, man.
Okay.
Call anytime.
I want to know if you can hear that thing that I sent you. You know, just give me a thumbs up or a yes, I heard it, or whatever. I think you'll like it.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. And like I say, man, y'all call anytime.
All right, man.
I'm always up at night. I get up usually like 4:30 in the afternoon, even on my days off.
That's fantastic.
So I'm always up for a little spook action.
Yeah, man. I can tell you got the witch in you. Well, we'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay. Well,
thanks. Have a good night, Jeff.
All right, sure will. Bye now.
Bye-bye. What do you think about that?
I think that was amazing. Amazing.
Me too.
Absolutely amazing.
I mean, I knew you were feeling it too. That was just, as soon as he said Carlos Castaneda's, you went, wow.
Yeah, it was magic. The whole thing, magic from the get. It was, he was awesome. Awesome. I've booked guests that were not as good as the random guest you picked up there.
Right, I know, right? Dude, that guy, we got a little special chemistry here, Timmy.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I'm not lying, though, that I saw someone walk down the hall, and I'm not exactly comfortable with what's going on. And when I walked out into the hall, I couldn't believe how loud it is. I tried to take a picture of it, but so, like, when we started, you know, when I said that it started coming out of the sprinkler head, and it sounded like someone was typing?
Right, yeah.
When that happened, that panel up there wasn't wet, and now the entire panel is wet. You know, like I can see the water, right. You know, the stain or whatever, however you want to say. Like if I don't do something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, you got some tarps or plastic bags.
No, it's funny. I made that joke the other day to Leslie, and Leslie's gone, and it's 1:30, and now I'm gonna physically have to wake some people up. I'm shocked about the EVP thing, dude. That was tripping me out. Just, I mean, to boot, I thought that something was happening there. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, because at first I thought, like, am I just hearing, like, artifacts, like, static? And then when that low kind of sound came in, I was like...
Yeah, almost... Dude, this... I mean, I can see this clear as day, dude.
That is freaky.
Are we doing something special, Tim? Like, because this is the kind of crap that makes me feel like we're doing something special.
I mean, it's certain combinations.
Yeah, but I mean, it feels like this guy, like, this is the thing that, like, people will be like, well, see what I mean every time. Dude, that is somebody saying, I think something.
The tail end of the lower voice, if we want to call it a voice, at the tail end of that, you can hear that high voice come back just for like a word or something.
Dude, that is long. Like, it's almost like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
No, when I heard that over the phone, every hair on my body stood up. It's really strange. There's this clicking noise before that all starts, and then there's a click after. So when I say this is pretty cool, this is kind of fun. Dude.
Yeah.
What a night already.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
So you were rolling on all that too, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Synchronicity thing was just crazy.
Yeah. I was thinking about doing it as a patron show, but I think I'm just going to release it to everybody. It might end up being like a 2-part thing just because there's so much. All right, dude.
Great times, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. Freaking, the whole thing was just awesome. So
It was.
Dude was a great storyteller, too.
Yeah, man. He was perfect. I wouldn't expect anything less. And I mean, it is pouring. Like, did you see that picture I sent you?
Yeah.
That's just here, It's worse up north. This was a good time to get this going,
Yeah.
The electricity in the air kind of shit. I'm all over that shit. And I got to wrap my head around what the fuck happened to.
Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts, music, books, art, podcasts, and more. darkhollerarts.com. If you're on Facebook, check out the Strange Familiars Gathering group on Facebook. You can also like the Strange Familiars page there. Stay in contact and stay apprised of what we're working on. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. Go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com for more. find home. Listen for my voice as you walk through the night. For I've lost my way and I have no home. Sing the night bird's song as I wait for daylight. Hear my banjo ring, and this song I sing is my offering, and it's all I can give. And it's step by step on the winding way, moonlight on the leaves as we walk through the night. For we've lost